Hello, everyone, and welcome to the She EmpowHers Podcast. I am your host, Kimmah Lewis, and I am here with an amazing guest today, and we are going to talk about the journey of becoming. And I'm so excited to talk to her because as I was looking at all of the guests that we had planned for season 1, I realized that we were missing a very important component of how motherhood, both being a mother and being a daughter, actually plays a part in how we show up in the world and how we learn and how we develop skills and compassion and all those good things. So I went down the rabbit hole as I usually do, and I went on LinkedIn and I stumbled on Fiana Tulip, which is like the most beautiful name. It's so precious. I actually love it.
Thank you.
But as I started reading her story and discovering more about her, I just saw all of these layers and layers. And I'm not going to spill it. I'm going to let Fiana tell her story her way. But I think you guys are going to be so excited about just listening to this guest and how she embodies how it is to be graceful through transformation. So, Fiana, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I thank you for creating this space. I just want to say that. I think the work you're doing with She EmpowHers it matters. It really matters. And it's rare to find a platform that lets women talk about change, not change, not as something to fear, but as something that shapes us, that creates us. And so when you reached out, I immediately felt connected to your vision and mission. And yes, there are layers. I mean, we all have them though, and so I'm still learning how to hold all of that and honor it. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I love that you said hold all of that and honor it. We haven't even gotten to the podcast yet, and you're already dropping gems, girl, because I feel like that's such an important part, right? I think a lot of the times we want to hold the good stuff and the things that make us feel amazing about ourselves. But it's like all of the stuff, the ups, the downs, our good parts, our bad parts, our shadows, the things that make us shine bright and the things that we don't love. It's like we have to honor all of that because that's really the fullness of who we are.
Exactly.
Without further ado, speaking of who we are, my first question, I ask every single guest this question. So I'm going to ask you, tell us, for people who are meeting you for the very first time, who is Fiana? On the inside, who are you?
Yeah. How much time do you have?
All day, girl, all day.
Perfect. So let me begin. I am somebody who has a lot of lives, from daughter, mom, wife, PR professional, communicator, friend, bad friend. And I'm still kind of figuring out who I am. And so when I think about who I am today, I hear my parents' voices, which makes sense. They gave me life. My mom used to, when she would come home from work, and she used to work with Mary Kay. I'm not sure if you remember Mary Kay.
Oh my gosh,
makeup.
yes.
Oh yeah. She would come home with all these samples and I'd get so excited I get to play with makeup. But she would come home with these new chants. And I think they taught them these chants at conferences and whatnot. And one of them that I will never forget is fight for what you know is right. And we would literally march around the house saying, fight, fight. Fight for what you know is right. And I loved that chant. And I still carry that with me, obviously, And so I think about that kind of shaping who I am. And then I think about my dad and what he used to tell me, because I don't know if I walked slow or what, but maybe I did. And he was always telling me, come on, walk with a purpose. And I thought those were just, hurry up words back then. But now, these two phrases, fight for what you know is right and walk with a purpose, they shape how I move through the world. And, through them, I've learned to walk with intention. And even when the road doesn't look like what I expected, I've learned to fight for what feels true in my bones. And that involves, my voice and my peace and my purpose. So that's backstory, where I come from, but professionally, I help people tell their stories. Personally, I'm learning to tell mine.
Yeah.
Even when it's uncomfortable, but professionally, I work in the communications, PR, media relations space. I think I've experienced enough and I've lived enough to know that purpose and mission driven visions and companies don't always need to show up in this grand, polished way. I think
Yeah.
sometimes it shows up in the middle of the mess, and it's when you're genuine and authentic to
Mm.
who you are. So that's a little bit of who I am, someone trying to stay real, listen more, and move with meaning and help brands and people do the same.
I think we could just leave now
Yeah.
because you just taught us everything we need to know.
All right, we're good.
Walk with purpose, fight for what's right, and be intentional in the mess.
Mm-hmm.
My God. Okay, so let me just say those will be blog posts.
Okay.
Because those are so good. But I love that, especially about the part about, because we talk about in the podcast the messy middle. I reference that all the time. We reference that on our website. We reference that and we'll reference it in our app. Is the messy middle is where all the change and transformation happens. And people are so ready to get to the end, they forget how potent the middle is when things are actually happening, and how you show up during that messy part, like how you show yourself to be, you are flexing muscles of resiliency and
Yep.
all of those things. Those things are so,
Yeah.
so important. And that's actually a wonderful lead into my next question. So
Okay.
one of the things, as I was, reading more about you and learning more about you and seeing your voice and how you show up so transparently and authentic, which I absolutely love, is
you.
you also talked about, you're welcome. You also talked about losing your mom during COVID, during the height of COVID, during the pandemic to COVID-19. And you wrote what was called an honest obituary.
Yeah.
That really sought to hold officials accountable for how they were showing up for their constituents during that time. And this is, I don't normally get political, and I don't think this is political. It is a human interest story. Can you talk to us about like what compelled you to write that and what you were experiencing and feeling, and like how this act of truth telling kind of transformed you to the next level of Fiana?
Yeah. No, it was that was a really wild time, in that I wasn't super aware of what was going on and what I was doing. I remember sitting at my kitchen table in Brooklyn just feeling completely numb. The world was spinning out of control, and my mom had just died alone in a hospital bed in Dallas, Texas.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. It was hard, and I wanted to get on a flight, but I had to make a decision, because at that time you had to quarantine. So if I got on the flight and went and came back, I would have to be 2 weeks away from my daughter, who was not even a year old yet. And I couldn't figure this out. I literally was numb. And so writing the obituary, every obituary I saw felt a little bit like a press release. It was, very polished and polite. And I feel like when I read obituaries, I want to know more.
Yeah.
And I felt like my mom deserved that. She was, she died at 64, so she was young, and she was bold and opinionated and silly in the way only Texas women can be. And she would tell stories that would fill up the room and make you smile. And I wanted her obituary to kind of honor that. But I also wanted people to know what happened. I wanted to share the failures that cost her life. And so I reached out to a now very good friend, Kristen Urquiza, who started the organization called Marked by COVID. Her father had died of COVID. Her father's name was Mark, just a couple weeks before. And she encouraged me to do this. And I was freaking out. Like, am I really going to do this? Like, nobody's going to read it, and people are going to be like, what kind of daughter is this? But I needed to be true and authentic to myself and to my mom.
Yeah.
When I hit publish, I didn't expect anything. And then my inbox started flooding, and messages from strangers were coming out and saying, thank you for saying what we couldn't. And that moment changed me. And it really changed me when it was published in the Austin American Statesman. But it taught me that truth is powerful. And it showed me that my voice could hold space for pain, justice, and love all at once. And so the obituary, was truly about survival and about refusing to let my mom become just another number.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Like, and what a wonderful way to honor your mom. And I think also like giving the voice for other people. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot on the podcast is how our voices sometimes helps other people feel seen when they don't even have the words for it, right? And so I think the additional power in what you did was you honored your mom, you honored yourself, which is absolutely outstanding. But the thousands, the tens and thousands of other people who were experiencing that too and who were feeling it had an opportunity to be seen. And I think that that's absolutely amazing. And so you said that was a time when you learned your voice, you found your voice, you became vulnerable, and you stepped into like, I'm going to say it how it is. You hit play.
Yes.
And everything changed.
You couldn't shut me up. You could not shut me up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so like, what did finding your voice actually feel like for you? Like how were those transitions showing up in other ways of your life, at work, with your husband, with your, as a mom?
Yeah. Well, I think it looked like a lot of tears on a keyboard. It looked like, just hitting post on things that, made me super nervous.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I'd been trained to edit myself. I think we all have, to make ourselves like presentable and perfect. And look, I work in PR. Like it's just kind of who I became. Yeah. And so saying things that were going to spark conversation, maybe debate, arguments, felt really risky. But after I lost my mom, the walls came down and I didn't want to be polished anymore. I just wanted to be real. Like I was just like, you know what? Screw this. Like I am who I am and this is what happened and this is what I'm going to say. And so I started writing from the heart, and I started writing about grief and anxiety and about losing my mom. And later, when I experienced prepartum anxiety and postpartum anxiety, and when I miscarried, I started to share all of that pretty mess. Like it just unfiltered, honest. And that honesty gave other women permission to speak too. And every message kind of started with a me too. And it reminded me of why I was doing it. And so that gave me the energy to just keep going. At one point, I found myself, sharing my mom's story in the middle of a crazy busy Times Square while there was construction going on at 7 p.m. at 7 p.m. at night, my daughter running around, and I've got people around me, and this floral heart project. If you look it up, it was started by my now friend, Fiana Tulip, and she created this huge floral heart made of roses. And I stood in front of that and I shared my mom's story in the middle of Times Square. And that was a real defining moment for me. I was exhausted. I was, I wanted to go to sleep. I didn't know where my daughter was running, but I found my voice, and I was standing there and like telling it at the top of my lungs, and it felt good.
Yeah.
So that whole season of all the things, taught me that my voice didn't have to be perfect or the loudest to be powerful.
Yeah. You just said something, and I don't know if it was intentional, but I have to go back, and it was beautiful. You called it the pretty mess.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, did Fiana just drop another gem right now?
I can't take credit for that. I watch a lot of Bravo. I don't know if you watch Bravo. Do you watch Bravo?
Not a ton.
Okay, so there is a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills, and I believe she calls herself the Pretty Mess, or her album's called The Pretty Mess. I should know this because I'm a Bravo junkie, but I think that's where it came from. But
I
I
love
would
it.
describe it as that, you know, I
Yeah.
would, it was a pretty big mess, but it was a pretty mess.
But it was a pretty big mess and a pretty mess. Talk about a
Hmm.
wordplay. I can't. You know when you hear something you like, I can't unhear it. I feel
Yeah.
like that's one of the things that I am going to be playing back in my head over and over and over again. A pretty
Well,
big mess, but a pretty mess. I think it's very, very powerful. But also I think the beauty of that is taking it, owning it for yourself, right?
yeah.
A lot of times people are thinking about what happened to them, but a pretty mess is something that happens for you, right?
Yeah.
It's like I get to take ownership of the situation that's happening that I super don't love, but I know that I'm going to learn something. I'm going to grow, I'm going to develop, I'm going to evolve. And so I'm stealing that. It
Yep.
also may
Take
be
it.
a blog. It's definitely going to be a blog. I love it. So, speaking of pretty messes,
Yes.
not mess. Marriage is beautiful, but
It's yeah, no, it's a mess. It's a mess too.
listen, sis, I was to go. Okay, so since we're going there, I love. Okay, so for everybody else listening, this is the type of guest that I want here. Fiana is just real. Marriage is hard. It's
It's
not
so
necessarily
hard.
always easy.
No.
But it's such a valuable experience, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. But I love that you said, no, 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 it's a mess. It's hard. Like,
Mhm.
thank you for just
Mhm.
your honesty and transparency. And speaking of your husband, who I hear just a little bit in the background,
Oh yeah.
speaking speaking of your husband, you mentioned in our pre-interview that you had met your husband and you guys had been dating for 3 months
Yeah.
before you got married.
Yeah.
Girl, that
We're
was
insane.
bold, bold.
We're insane.
So, like, what did that experience teach you about trusting yourself?
Yeah. 3 months, that's insane. But it's very
Yeah,
true. I just texted him to tell him we could hear him. He has a very loud voice.
he does.
Hopefully he's reading
Okay.
his text messages. No, that season that was a weird time too. You know, I was going through a period of like rediscovery. I had left my
Mm-hmm.
job in fashion. I had come from a place where I was being given free clothes. I was traveling to Paris all the time.
Ooh.
You know, I
Ooh.
was like eating at the best restaurants, wearing heels everywhere, working in Midtown New York, like living that, real fashion life. And I
Mm-hmm.
left that to just take some time off and just to find myself again and to enjoy
Yeah.
life. So I didn't know how long this would last, but I had saved up enough and I was just going to take a break. And
Yeah.
I started to really focus on running and fitness and taking care of myself. And I applied to be a part of a running program with Nike
Okay.
called Project Moonshot. And
Mm.
Project Moonshot was designed to help you run your best marathon ever. And
Okay.
I had run one before and I thought, this is a good time to do it. I'm not working, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing anything. Like, let's see what Nike
Sure.
can do for me.
Sure.
Charlie, my husband, had also been a part of that program. We had probably gone 8 weeks without knowing each other. And I was hashtagging all my Instagram posts and he found me and he saw how much I was doing with my life at the time and just being really
Yeah.
positive and, saying yes. And he wanted to like commend me and say, I'm proud of you for what you're doing and what you've done.
Wow. Yeah.
And he said, I honestly was not trying to hit on you. Yes, I was attracted to you, but he was moving back home to the UK and in a few months. So he was done dating in New York. Like he was just ready he was done. We met a couple days later and I found out he was British by hearing his accent. And I was like, oh, whoa, British.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most people would be like, oh, swoon. But I was just like, you're British and you're really sweaty. Like, I don't know why are you hugging me? You're hugging me. You're really hugging me. Covered in sweat. It was so gross.
I love you, girl.
Oh, it was so gross. I was like, oh, don't know you. You're British and
Yeah.
you're hugging me. So
Yes.
we walked back to get our stuff from the track and I saw my friends running by and I was like, oh, gotta go. My friends are going. So I went to run with them and they're like, what are you doing? Like, go walk with him. He's by himself. He's like limping because he got hurt. I was like, you're right. I'll go back. So I went back, walked with him. Later that night, he said, thank you for walking with me. I know you probably didn't want to. I'd love to take you out for pasta, this weekend after our long run.
Mm-hmm.
And look, no job. I'm all about free pasta after a long run. Like yes, I will buy
You're
me
like, sign me
pasta.
up.
Yeah,
Sign me
I'm
up.
good.
Sign me up. Yeah.
So we had I think it was like a 16-mile run. And then we met later
Mhm.
that night and had pasta and got married 3 months later. We were inseparable. It was very wild. It was a weird moment, but I just knew, I just
Yeah.
knew that he was the person I wanted to spend my life with. I knew he was the person that I wanted to be the father of my kids. And
Yeah.
he made me laugh. He grounded me. He reminded me of joy. And
Mm.
so we got married 18, literally 3 months after we met. And a couple of days later, we found out we were pregnant. And because of that, because I moved so fast,
Yeah.
my mom got to meet her first and only grandchild.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so that window of time was everything, of love,
Yeah.
like new life and loss, but it all felt like it happened for a reason. Like she got to have a
Yeah.
grandkid and she saw her twice. I got to see them together. I got to see the joy in my mom's face when she was around my daughter, Lua. And, it taught me that the best decisions don't always make logical sense. And
Oh
they kind
man.
of make emotional sense. And saying
Yeah.
yes to him wasn't it wasn't so much a calculated move. Like I was just
Yeah.
hoping. It was like a moment of faith and a gut feeling that this was where I
Yeah.
needed to be. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Trust your gut.
trust your
Trust your
gut.
gut.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. And go out for pasta.
Yeah. Go out for pasta.
I tell some of my girlfriends, my good girlfriends that are still in the process of finding love and looking for love, to go out, to take a risk. Like,
Yeah.
he's not going to deliver your mail. I mean, he may deliver your mail, but he's probably
Yeah.
not going to be the person dropping off your stuff coming to you. You have to actually go out and do something in order to meet these people. Take a
Yeah,
risk.
you
So,
do. You have to take a risk. And you know, I, kn- I I've lived through so many lives that I know that relationships
mhm.
aren't going to be perfect. Like you can meet
Yeah.
somebody who checks all the boxes and
Mm.
it may not work. And I did have
Yeah.
that before. I honestly
Yeah.
did. And it didn't
Yeah.
work. And so
Yeah.
it when I
Mm.
made the choice to say yes, it was like, this is going to be a choice every day I'm going to have to make. And look, there have been times, even of late, where I've said, I don't want to say yes anymore. Like, I don't want to do this relationship anymore. It's so hard. But
Yeah.
it is about, okay, like, fine, then find someone else and you're going to have to do the same thing, like, but that's what I think about. Like,
Sure.
if it's not this person, then who? But this is the person I chose.
Mhm.
This is the person that I have 3 kids with now. And
Yeah.
this is the person who I moved to South Orange, New Jersey with. And this is the person who makes me laugh and who makes my kids laugh. And like, why wouldn't I choose to say yes every day? And so I know
Yeah.
that sounds kind of sad, but marriage is
No, it
hard.
doesn't.
It's so
No, it
hard.
doesn't. You know what? I love how I feel like choosing to say yes is actually very freeing, because
Hmm.
I think a lot of times people are waiting on this magical feeling. They're like, oh, if I don't feel this, the tingles, or if I
Yeah.
don't feel a certain thing like that I felt. First of all, dopamine highs and chemistry is such a big thing.
Yeah.
And if you look at the research, it says that after, I want to say it's like 2 years,
Yeah.
those chemicals are depleted. They go
Yeah.
back down to their normal levels. And so it really, the chemicals are gone, girls.
Yeah.
Stop looking for the chemicals.
Say bye to them. They're gone.
Say bye to them. It is really a choice, but you get to choose it. And I think that is something that you can apply to all areas of your
Yeah.
life, not just your romantic relationships. Like,
Yeah.
I think in your career, you can choose to say yes or no. In
Hmm.
your friendships, you can choose to say yes or no. In how
Yeah.
you show up as a parent, you can choose how you show up. And I think a lot of times, again, like going back to what I was saying earlier, people are always worried about, they say things as if they're happening to them.
Hmm.
And like when you say things are happening to me, you have no choice.
Yeah.
But like when you step in in the place where you're like, I get to decide what is happening next. I am in the driver's seat. I think it's so freaking empowering.
Yeah.
So, all right, off that rant, off that
I know.
tangent, but that was also another gem. So, okay, so you got married, you became a mom,
Hmm.
you lost your mom, you walked through multiple miscarriages, then you
2.
had your rant. two miscarriages. Then you had your rainbow babies. Okay, that's a lot
Yeah.
of change.
It's a lot.
And that was, if you got married in 2018, that means that everything happened in a really short time frame.
Mhm.
What did all of that change teach you about surrender?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I learned a lot about that. I mean, I taught it taught me that, control is kind of an illusion.
Mm,
I had always believed that if I planned hard enough, if I stuck to the schedule enough, that I could prevent chaos. And then
mm,
chaos just kept on coming.
yeah.
And so the kind of heartbreak that I dealt with from losing my mom to, having those miscarriages kind of opened me up in a way that, nothing else can. And
Mm,
each one like stripped away my certainty and left
yeah.
me face to face with surrender. I tried to think of a million different ways to bring my mom back. I tried to think of a million different ways to bring the baby back, like to put the baby back in my belly. And
Yeah.
so because I couldn't, for a long time or for as long as I let myself feel this, like it felt like failure and it
Mm,
felt like giving up. And then I realized that surrender is actually strength. And the more
mm,
in the moment you stop fighting the tide and start learning how to float is when you really start to feel free again.
yeah.
So surrender is like letting life happen, and trusting that you'll know what to do when it does happen.
Yeah.
Just letting yourself be. That's all I could do.
Yeah.
Because the more I fought, the harder life got. And
Yeah.
I had already
Yeah.
had a hard enough time dealing with all these feelings anyway. I just needed to let
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's, I mean, you talked about that too, is the more you fight the current, the harder it gets.
Hmm.
And so, how does that look for you now,
Yeah.
practically? Like,
Yeah.
okay, in today, in 2025, right?
Hmm.
Because I think too, sometimes we learn lessons and then we're like, got that, don't need to learn it again. And then
Yep.
it comes back. And then you're like, crap,
Yep.
I need to apply this. So, how does that look like for you today, like not
Yeah.
fighting the current?
Oh my gosh, it looks like letting my kids walk around with chocolate all over their face when I, just don't have time to wipe the chocolate off. It looks like, letting them eat cereal for dinner when I don't want to cook. Or it looks
Yeah.
like leaving an email unsent and going for a walk instead or going for a workout.
Mm,
It's become like an everyday practice and it's a deep breath before the reaction. It's a pause before overthinking. And look, I'm not perfect in this area at all because I still
yeah.
find a way to like hold the spaghetti spoon and wipe my kid's nose, like I'm like, no. Um, so I'm still trying like to let go, and
Yeah.
yesterday Albie came home covered in dirt and lately he has been because his aftercare is at the playground and he gets it
How
on his
fun.
nose, he gets it like on his mouth and in his nails. And I'm just thinking, my clean floors, like you're walking in on my clean floor and you're about to have dinner. And I don't know what, like, and so I want to stop him outside of the door and just give him a bath. But look,
Yeah.
he's a child. He's 3.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just need to just to surrender. That's surrender. Give myself permission to take a minute and then like re-enter the chaos and just let it be. Let life happen. So yeah, it's not about doing everything right. It's about, paying attention to what needs my energy today. What can
Yeah.
wait. And wiping his nose can wait sometimes.
It can. So I think part of the reason that sometimes I will say women, I can't speak for men, have a problem or struggle with surrender is because we feel like we have to have everything under
Yes.
control and
Yes.
taken care of at all times. And if we don't, we failed.
Yeah.
We either failed as a parent, we failed as a wife, we failed at work. Like, we can't let the ball drop because what does that say about who we are? Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you were speaking to a woman who is struggling with surrendering, what would you tell her right now?
Oh wow. That's a good question. I would say that y- life is going to bring you a lot of moments that are chaotic and hard imperfect. And you're going to have the option to surrender or to kind of fight against the tide. And if you want to kind of get through it, the
Yeah.
only way, I really think the only way is to just breathe through it and surrender and let it be.
Yeah.
Because fighting it is going to make it last longer. It's going to make the pain,
Mm.
it's going to make the challenge even bigger. It's not what we need right now as women. We're
Yeah.
juggling so many different things and
Yeah.
all of this stuff is going on our brain. Just give yourself some grace and,
Yeah.
be nice to yourself and find what feels good. And what feels good in those situations is going to be surrendering. So give it a try.
You just said another thing that I'm just like, girl, you are blowing my mind today. You said fighting makes it last longer.
It does. It
Let's
does.
talk about that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that because I don't think that I've ever thought about it in exactly that way, but I think that there is like that's a big truth bomb, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, talk to me about your experience with fighting things and maybe it lasting way longer and then your new approach. You said so many
Oh my
things.
gosh. Yeah. Goodness.
And your new approach, which is like, I'm going to go with the current.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many the different stories I can think about when it comes to fighting against the grain. I mean, from literal to non-literal, but one of my therapists, after I was going through a really tough time, told me one time that, you know, you've got to excavate a little bit. So, okay, let's think about dinosaurs. My son, Albie, is like really into dinosaurs right now. So it's just all
Okay.
that's on my head because he wants to be a
Okay.
dinosaur for
Let's
Halloween.
do it.
And he wants mommy to be a dinosaur and daddy to be a dinosaur and baby to be a dinosaur and Lou to be a dinosaur. So everybody's going to be a dinosaur. So let's think about
Makes
the dinosaur bones. Okay. So dinosaur bones, they're buried underneath the ground, far, far underneath the ground. And you, if we're excavating, we're digging for the bones, we find the bones, we air it out. And as soon as it hits air, it starts to kind of disintegrate a little bit. Right. So this is how I think of, challenges and kind of fighting against it. So we can continue to keep that issue, that bone, that dinosaur bone, way under the ground and keep putting the dirt over it and preserving it and letting it stay there and last forever. Or we can take the dust off, take the dirt off, brush it out, let it air out so it disintegrates and disappears. That's how that stuck with me forever. And that's how I think about a lot of like tough times or difficulties or stressful moments is you've got to bring it up to the air so it can get the light and it can get the air and it can just disappear. And that's how I view a lot of my storytelling. When I share what I've been through, when I share that grief that I'm going through, when I share the chaos of motherhood, I'm airing it out and I'm letting it breathe. And it's not as big of a deal anymore, because I'm helping myself kind of view it from the outside, but I'm also, helping others too. And I don't feel so alone in that moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm totally answering your question, but it just made
No,
me
you
think of this,
totally.
like this dinosaur bone that you
Yeah,
just need to kind of
let it
pull
air
up
out.
from the ground, let it air out
Yeah.
and
Let it
disintegrate.
and disintegrate because it will on its own. So someone sent me a video that I was watching actually in the car this morning, and it said that anger lasts 90 seconds. 90 seconds. The
Wow.
actual chemical emotion connected to anger lasts for 90 seconds, which is short, right? But
Wow.
they were saying like, why do we stay angry so long?
Yeah.
Because we feed it. Because
Yeah.
we feed it.
Yeah.
Physiologically, I can't get the word out. The
Gotcha.
body is primed to feel it, express it, and let it go, right?
Wow.
But mentally, we start replaying it. And what should we have said? Or they shouldn't have
Yes.
done that. And yada, yada, yada. And then we go into a cycle and we
Ugh.
keep reliving the anger and the feeling over and over and over again. That's when you said that, that's kind of the thing that I thought about. Like the longer that we are feeding it, the longer it exists.
Yeah.
And so fighting it, the longer it exists. Feeding it, the longer it exists. You want it to stop feeding it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Just stop
true.
feeding it. Just
I
stop feeding
know.
it, or stop resisting it.
Yeah. I'm so guilty of that. Still, like, as much as I know this and have lived it
Mm-hmm.
and learned it, I'm still very guilty of it. I can
Yeah.
get into an argument, or even let's think about like work. I'm at work and, someone says something or gives me feedback I didn't like. I can choose to accept it and move on, or dwell on it and feed it and be
Oh,
like, oh, I remember when this
yeah.
person said this, but I did this better back then. And, and I can
Yeah.
turn it into a really bad situation, or I can,
Sure.
turn it into a positive situation, let it get some
Sure.
air and move on and continue being the best self that I can be.
Yeah.
Cause yeah.
I think it's so
Good.
easy to do that though, to just kind of like feed it, because I think also like especially when you're interacting with other humans,
Mm-hmm.
you're we have a tendency to internalize things and
Yeah.
absorb it. I tell my son all the time, you have to observe and not absorb. But it's
Mm.
very easy to absorb people's criticism or their feedback, not considering like maybe they have their own thing going on. Maybe they were short because of them, or maybe they were critical because they know another piece of the puzzle that I don't know. And so they were giving me feedback based off that. It could be a multitude of things. The
Yeah.
easiest thing to get to a resolution is just to ask for clarity, but we don't. We
Nope.
just play them over and over and over and over into our head
Yep.
on repeat. And it's really like, I think I heard in a sermon something along the lines of the devil in your head is your
Mm.
own voice, because it's really the things that we're telling ourselves, that we're saying to ourselves over and repeat. It is the the perception of how we see things that we allow to become reality that's probably not.
Yeah.
And then that is the hell that we end up living in, this
Yes.
idea that's not even based in reality most of the
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And we do that. We do that at work. We do that as, parents. We do that in our relationships, our friendships. Like, we do it.
It's
Yeah.
it's I'm gonna work on myself. I'm gonna work
Me
on
too.
stop spiraling, because I am a
Yeah.
spiraler too sometimes, especially when it comes to my husband. I'm gonna spiral a little
Oh.
bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No doubt.
I This is random. This was not in their questions, but I read something the other day. It may have I read, like, I have so many books, it's like an illness at this point. I have so many books. I buy books all the time. But I read something, and I would just wanted to get your take on it. Is it says marriage is not supposed to bring out the best in you. It's supposed to bring
Mm.
out the worst in you,
Mm.
because the person that you're married to is the person that sees you better than anybody else. And so they're going to reflect to you the areas that you've been able to hide and not be accountable for, run away from, and the areas that you probably need to heal and address. What are your
Ugh,
thoughts?
the worst. It's the worst. Oh, it's so awful.
But true,
Gosh,
right?
it's
But
so
true, right?
true. It is true, and it sucks. It's true. But and it's not until you realize that you can really, like, be free. I don't know, but it's
Yeah.
so true. Like, what I've
Yeah.
learned is I stink at communication. I am terrible at it, and that's my job. And so I'm also very embarrassed by that. But when it comes to just saying how you feel and asking for what you need, like, I am
Yeah.
terrible at that. And yeah,
Yeah.
marriage has taught me that. And and I've had to, and I am still learning how to and practicing. And it's also
Mhm.
taught me that, I don't know if this was childhood or what, but I just, I needed to be perfect. Like, perfection was more
Mm.
important than, repairing things or growing. That it was just, I just
Yeah.
needed to be perfect. And what marriage taught me is that I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to admit that and communicate that. But,
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot through
Through marriage. I mean, it definitely is. I can so relate with the whole communication thing, because my God, the amount of times that I have said I am an amazing communicator, and
Mhm,
I am, except
mhm.
in my marriage. I'm
Yeah.
horrible. And so the reality that this thing that is probably a part of how I show up, or how I say how I show up. Like I'm in marketing, or I was in marketing, and you are in PR. It's like this is such a fundamental part of
Yeah.
me. And then to find out that I'm not as good as this thing that's fundamentally a part of me as I
No.
thought, it's a bit triggering, right?
Yeah,
Like
it is. It is. And I want to hide it.
you want to hide it.
Well, I want to hide that I can't do it. So then I just don't address
Yeah.
it and I don't work on it, you know? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
this never ending cycle, but I get it. But this is what it's for, like to be able to stand up for yourself and to be yourself and to
Yeah.
ask for what you need and to share why you feel a certain way. It doesn't mean things are over,
Yeah.
you know? And so
Yeah.
that's a fear like for a lot of people
Sure.
have, like any kind of conflict is just bad. But
Yeah.
no, it's a part of being human.
It is. And conflict is necessary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's necessary for growth, finding the things that you like and for finding what feels good. It's necessary.
Mhm. Yeah. I love a good conflict. I don't like arguing, but I love a good conflict because I feel like during conflict is when you learn more about the other person.
Yeah.
Like it's the time when we are not on the same page. Like when we're on the same page and we're just both moving, like we both like red wine. So we're going to drink red wine.
Yeah.
We're not really having discussions about red wine because we both
Mhm.
know we like red wine, right?
Mhm.
But what happens when I say like I want red wine and he says he wants white wine? I'm like, why do you like white wine? Well, I like the flavor and the profile of white wine. I feel like it goes better with this and da 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 da. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I never thought about it. It's kind of like that. I mean, that was like the most simple
Yeah.
explanation that I can give. But that's kind of how conflict happens. Is it's really created so that we can grow. And
Mhm.
so being able to really walk into conflict and not walk away from it, not escape it, is really something I think a lot of people struggle with. But they
Yeah.
will learn that through embracing the conflict is how you have the better outcome.
Yeah.
So we are all off track. I'm gonna get us back on track a little bit because we're just dipping into all the tea. So, but I love that for us and I love that for the listeners because I feel like the conversation is so rich and like you've dropped so many gems and stuff like that. So you talked earlier about how you have been in fashion, which I did not know because we never talked about that
Yeah.
on the earlier like podcast. So I might have to send you an email and be like, ask some more questions because I'm very, very curious. But fashion, PR, fitness, wife, motherhood, like there's a lot of different layers of
Yeah.
Fiana, but there has to be something that connects you through all of these seasons. So, what
Yeah.
is the line of connection for all of these different parts and these lives that you lived? What's the connection for you?
Yeah. No, I've had so many different lives and it's when I think back to what I've done, I feel pretty proud because it's easy to forget when I'm in it.
Yeah.
But when I think about all of those seasons, I think every season is kind of a love letter to storytelling. You know, in fashion, I told stories through style, through identity and self-expression. And in fitness, I told stories through movement and,
Hmm.
through strength and transformation and communications and PR and marketing. I tell stories with words.
Hmm. Yeah.
People articulate what matters most to them. And so the through line has always been that storytelling and the connection. I've always been drawn to helping people like see themselves differently and to notice what's beautiful or
Hmm.
brave in their own story.
Yeah.
And each version of me through those transformations was searching for meaning. And I didn't always know it at the time, but that's what was guiding me through all the pivots. I was really
Mm.
searching for that true meaning.
Yeah.
Um, I probably still am, but I think I'm getting closer to it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's wonderful. I mean, so when you were like, when you left your career in fashion and then you
Hmm.
pivoted to fitness,
Hmm.
what was that like for you? Because I'm sure you were like, hey, I've worked so hard to get here. And then you walk away. Like, was it hard for you to take that step or did it just feel like, oh, I'm just exploring a new part of myself?
Yeah. That's a really good question. Because I went to Parsons to study fashion, and so I paid the money to go to one
Yeah.
of the best schools and to get into fashion. And I did really well in fashion. I
Yeah.
was working in luxury fashion and got to meet a lot of great people, got to experience a lot of great events and go to the fashion shows in Paris and whatnot and have a lot of cool clothes. And so I was really happy. But one of the things that was missing for me was I felt like I didn't belong. It was a really
Mm.
weird feeling. I just
Yeah.
felt like my former colleagues, and they said it very lovingly, but they called me the art friend because I was kind of
Okay.
like the outcast. Like I was the one
Yeah.
who was like kind of like the weird art friend out here. And I did
Yeah.
feel that.
Mhm.
And I think the reason for that was just, I appreciated fashion in a different sense. I wanted to create it myself. I wanted to design things myself. And when it came to the business of fashion, which is where I ended up, I wanted to make sure that those companies who I worked with, whether it was Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Barney's and whatnot, I wanted to make sure they were successful. And so I didn't really care about what model was walking on the fashion show, who was in the front row, who I, touched elbows with. And I
Mhm.
didn't care about all that. I didn't care about
Yeah.
who was wearing what to the Emmys and whatnot. And
Mm.
so I was a little bit of the outcast. And so I was searching for like, what do I want to do? I want to help people. I really want to help people. So it felt like a natural kind of move just to take a step back. I always thought I would go back into fashion. Like I'll find my
Mhm.
place. But
Yeah.
I just need to take a step back because I am happy. I am making good money. I
Yeah.
do, I have achieved what I wanted to achieve. I just need a moment to see like why do I feel like I don't belong?
Yeah.
And so it was hard. It was hard to walk
Yeah.
away and to
Yeah.
admit that, I don't
Yeah.
belong. Something's off.
Yeah.
Somehow I ended up a personal trainer at Equinox. I don't know.
And then you made your way to PR. But before we talk about that, I think you said something that a lot of women could relate to and learn from, and that
Mhm,
is what it takes to actually pivot. Because I think
mhm,
sometimes it's like, oh, I did everything right. Like you said, I went to Parsons. I went to the best school I could possibly go to for fashion, right?
mhm,
I followed the recipe, and then
mhm.
I got there, and I'm just like, this doesn't feel right for me.
Yeah.
Like, talk about that a little bit because I think a lot of women or people just in general, I don't even think it's a woman thing, struggle with, okay, society says I have to do these things. If I do these things, I'm happy. Then
Yeah.
what happens when I do all of these things and I'm still not happy?
Yeah. It was tough because I think about, okay, I paid a lot of money to do this, so I need to stick
Yeah.
with it, stick with it, stick
Mm.
with it, stick with it. And most people I talked with were like, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky." You know, people would just like
Mm.
die to be in your shoes.
Yeah.
And you're in Paris all the time. That's amazing. And yeah, it sounds great, but when I am going through the motions and not feeling like it's right, I started to notice that I wasn't showing up in the way that I needed to. I wasn't showing up as the colleague that I wanted to. I wasn't showing up as the partner that I wanted to be. And I was just striving for something in this place that I wasn't going to get what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so being real and honest and true to myself in that moment, it mattered in that helped me it helped me understand. I guess I have a hard time like saying this because I think there's still a little bit of regret. I do miss it a little
Mm.
bit.
Okay. That's fair.
But I needed to do this for myself for my mental health. Like there was a moment
Yeah.
that really stuck out to me. And it was a moment where the person who reported to me, she was I mentored, well, I was her manager. She didn't feel like I was the best manager for her. And
Mm.
I didn't like that at all because I came into this role as a manager to help people and to help them feel good about their role. And the moment that she did not feel comfortable was the moment that I knew I needed to move on. And I knew that the reason that was happening was because I didn't feel like myself. So it just had to happen.
It
Yeah.
had to happen. The pivot had to happen at that
It had to
point,
happen.
right?
Yeah, and I mean that we can go on to like bad managers and whatnot, but we've
Yeah.
all seen The Devil Wears Prada, and I've been in situations that have been really, really toxic, and I've sworn from that moment on that whatever role I was in, I would help people younger than me or mentees, managees,
Mhm.
whatever, be in my role. I never wanted to
Yeah.
prevent them from growing and learning. And so
Totally.
when that started to happen, I realized I need to move on.
Yeah. You realize that you were not in alignment with your own values at that point. You're
Yeah.
like, this is something that's very important to me. So maybe that's a takeaway
Mm,
for other women is
yeah.
to check whether or not is where you are in alignment with your own values. Is
Yeah.
your behavior in alignment with your values? Do you feel like you're showing up the way that you know you are capable of showing up? Because
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's hard.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hard to walk away from like I built this life. I've worked so hard. On paper it looks good. Everybody
Hmm.
says you're lucky and you should be happy and I am not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not. And so I think that that was incredibly brave and incredibly bold. I mean, it just kind of speaks to your character. And also it speaks to your leadership
Thank you.
because you made a decision that was in somebody else's interest also, not just your own. And I love that because I wish that that was representative of more leaders.
I know.
I feel like that is going to be a podcast for the next season,
Yeah.
really.
Goodness.
Like just talking about leadership,
Yeah.
and how to show up as a good leader. I had Mita Malik on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about leadership. We talked about her new book, The Devil Emails at Midnight, which is amazing. Get it? Just
I
FYI,
want
if
to
you
read
haven't
it.
gotten it
Yeah.
already. It's so dang on good. It's so dang on good. But she talked about her moment of when she realized she was being a bad boss is after her father died
Mm.
and she was not being present for her team. And then she
Hmm.
would show up and it'd be straight chaos. And I think like that level of awareness that you had and Mita had is to be like, hey, this is not who I am. So what do I need to do? For her, it was, let me take a step back because I came to work too soon. For you, it was, uh, let me shift out of this role because I'm not showing up in myself. And so I think the pivot, I say all that to say the pivot looks different for
Yeah.
everyone, but like you have to, as you said earlier, listen to your gut, listen to what your internal value system is saying, your internal systems are saying.
Yeah.
Like, if it feels off, something's off. Don't
Yep.
ignore it,
Don't ignore it. Yeah.
And
It's so true.
because girl, if you had not left PR and shifted to fitness and done the thing at Nike, you would not have met your
Nope.
husband or your 3 beautiful babies.
Yeah. Yeah. See? Listen to your gut.
Listen to your gut. Okay, so speaking of motherhood, because I want to make sure that we spend a little bit
Yeah.
time here. I know we're like getting close on time. So we talked about the wife Fiana, we talked about the PR Fiana, we've talked about the daughter Fiana. Let's talk about the mama Fiana.
Okay.
Talk to me about what it's like to be real mom, real life, real responsibilities, not Pinterest, like, right? Like not the gentle parenting, perfect parent. I make these wonderful lunches and everything is parent. But
I
how
don't.
do you show up with all of you've learned and all of you've experienced? How do you show up as a mom? And how does that translate for motherhood for you?
I don't even know. I
Okay,
don't
that's
even know.
honest.
No, I am a mess. I don't even I still kind of wonder, am I really a mom? Like is this what I'm doing? I'm supposed to make lunch? Like I'm the worst. With among all the other moms, I am the
Mhm.
mom who just doesn't know what's going on. Like they know
Yeah.
that. They're like, there's a holiday next Monday, right? Like no, I don't know.
No.
I did not plan that. You know that they're off all next week. No, didn't know that at all either.
Thanks for telling me.
School starts tomorrow, right? I think I know that. I think I know
Yeah.
that. I'm
Yeah.
such that mom. So
Yeah.
motherhood's taught me humility. Like it taught me that, I can still be this mess and not know when the holidays were or what to pack my kids for lunch, which I actually don't do because Charlie packs lunches because they stress me out. But it taught me that I am still a mom though, even though I don't do
Yeah.
those things, even though I have no clue what's going on, I'm
Yes.
still a mom. It taught me that I can be gentle and, still lose my patience and still be figuring out what motherhood is after 6 years.
Yeah.
And I can love my kids endlessly and I can still not
Yeah.
know what's going on and need a break. Like
Yeah.
it goes back to perfection. Like I do see those Instagram moms, making their Halloween themed lunches. And
Yeah.
I wish I could do that, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm
Yeah.
just not. Like
Yeah.
my kids don't need that. Like they just need someone who's human. They need someone who apologizes and who laughs with them and who just keeps
Mm.
trying. There was a night not a long time ago when my 6-year-old daughter climbed into bed and she said, "Mommy, I'm proud of myself." And she had
Oh.
just finished, oh, so she wasn't 6 at the time, actually. She was, what, 4? She was 4, and she had just finished her preschool graduation speech, and she was the only one who did the speech, but hearing those words, like, nearly broke me open, and I realized, like, how rarely we say that to ourselves.
Oh.
That's what motherhood taught me, like celebrate the small wins and to name
Yeah.
pride and to model self-love like in real time and just hearing her
Mhm.
say like I'm proud of myself. It
Oh my
was it was
gosh.
such a moment.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love when we can learn from our little ones, when we learn from our children, right? I think marriage is an amazing teacher. Parenting is another teacher by another name.
Yeah.
And those lessons are I think I tell my son all the time, I would not be the person that I am if it weren't for you. I would
Yeah.
not be
So
this woman if
true.
it weren't for you. And I thank
Oh.
him. I thank him for helping shape me and
Yeah.
helping me to become this person. So last question, because you said another thing that I think is also important, which I know I feel like I'm making things up because I'm like, I just had this conversation on Facebook right before this call
Oh well.
about about apologizing to your kids. And you just said,
Oh
like, it's
yeah.
taught me how to apologize to my kids. And I think that not enough parents have learned the art of apology and what that actually teaches your children about being human. So talk to me about apologizing
Yeah.
to your kid.
Look, it's hard. I'm not the best at apologizing. I'm not the best at admitting fault. But
Yeah.
if I expect that from my kids, I want to model that as well. I've
Yeah.
seen instances where I tell them, you should apologize to your friend. Like, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't do that to your brother. And
Yeah.
so the only way that they're going to learn that is if I model that for them. And
Yeah.
look, sometimes they do deserve an apology. There are times where I snap and I probably didn't need to snap. I've had a really long
Yeah.
day. I'm tired. They ask me a simple question and I just lose it. They deserve an apology. They're human too,
For
and
sure. Yeah.
I think we don't forget that they're human, but we do forget that they're people sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're not
Yeah.
these little like
Yeah.
characters. They're people in this world who have earned their right to be here and they deserve the respect just as much as I do. And so I I owe it to them. If I do something that's out of line and that they didn't deserve, apologize. And it can be
Yeah.
hard because you want to be I don't know. Well, for me, I sometimes have an ego, like I'm the parent, I'm always right, what I say
Yeah.
goes, I'm the adult, I'm older than you.
Yeah.
But you've got to let that go and remember they are a person and they're,
Yeah.
learning how to be how to be in this world and the way that they're going to learn best is from their parents. And so,
That's
yeah,
right.
if I did something wrong, I'm sorry, and
Yeah.
I think they appreciate that. They may not always listen, but they hear it.
Yeah. They hear it. They hear it in here. They hear it in
Yeah.
here and they appreciate it and they deserve it. They
Yeah, they
deserve it.
deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same way anyone is. Okay. My last question for you almost.
Okay.
Finish this sentence. So this is for every woman who is listening.
Okay.
You will survive if you remember fill in the blank.
Gosh, there's so much I could say to this. We've covered so much, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is if you remember to breathe,
Yeah.
to take the pressure off, which is, goes back to like giving yourself grace and letting those, hard times kind of breathe a bit. So take the pressure off, drink water, drink a lot of water,
Yeah.
and forgive yourself for being a human.
Mm.
Some days, like surviving looks like hiding in your car for a bit before going back inside,
Yep.
taking a deep breath at a stoplight and saying, I'm doing okay. Like life
Mm.
doesn't always need to be a big dramatic, fix. Like sometimes it's just giving yourself permission, permission to rest, and that's strength too. Like that's
Yeah.
absolutely strength. So yeah, just breathe. I've got that tattooed on me. It's so cliche, but just breathe.
Just breathe. No, I think I listen to a lot of meditation, and literally they're like, let's start with the breath.
Yeah.
They say it for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last question.
Okay.
If people want to experience more of your transparency, your vulnerability, your authenticity, which I highly recommend because she is awesome, you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Where can people find you and learn more?
Well, I'm usually on LinkedIn, so just sharing my feelings. So Fiana Tulip on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. It's me, Fee. I'm sharing my life stories of motherhood and work and the beautiful, pretty mess, the beautiful chaos of trying to do both. I'm slowly finding my rhythm on TikTok, and I can't believe I just said that out loud because I do make some attempts at content.
Okay.
But, in preparing for this podcast and after our conversation and thinking through kind of the stories that I am sharing, I did take a look at Substack, and I will soon be launching my own Substack. Dun, 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 and I'm going to be calling it Permission Slip. So it's a space for honest writing about change and grief and motherhood and all the in-between moments that shape us, and having that permission to just be. So I want it to be a place where people who are learning like I am and giving themselves grace. And if you've ever needed a reminder, that you're doing your best, Permission Slip will be the space for you. So coming soon.
Oh my God, Fiana. I cannot love that. I literally can't love it more. When you have it up, please share it so that I can share it with our subscribers so that they can find you. I'll make sure that I link it in the show notes when you have it.
Awesome.
I'll link it in your blog on the page. I think it's absolutely amazing. And we all deserve a permission slip. So thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast as much as I did. I have truly enjoyed every minute of this conversation.
Thank you so much.
I've learned so much, and I already know what I'm going to title this. Like, I typically will hear it during it. I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm not going to tell you, but it's going to be so good. But I want to thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope that you really, truly enjoyed listening to Fiana and her stories about grief and motherhood and change, and really just persevering and living through the pretty mess. Until the next time, you can find us at She EmpowHers on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all the things, or www.sheempowers.com. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you.